I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
4 games, 3 knockouts, 2 wins, and 1 podcast to cover it all. Let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Interpro Show, your home for all things professional and amateur men's and women's game in Ireland. Joining me this evening, I have D3 David, Sufton Adam, and Treaty Ben. We're working on those. Don't worry, we're getting there. Sufton Adam is locked in place though. He sends more Jamie Dornan Sufton videos than is humanly possible.
That
Jamie
sounds like
Dornan.
an adult video.
That's
Based
true.
on Jamie
That
Dornan.
is true.
50
So
Shades
that's
of Softum.
Oh, just say 50 Shades of Dornan. We'd have had so many new listeners.
There's definitely a fan fiction somewhere called 50 Shades of Softum.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely.
but
Hey,
Adam,
look at how Sparky looks muscly. Oh, sorry, this has already went off the charts.
We're 2 minutes in and we are gone. I would ask for a semblance of morality, but David was the only one with us last week, so I'm obliged to ask the other 2 lads how they are. Ben, your other sporting conquests haven't been great recently, so at least you have, I don't know, Munster Championship soon.
It was a weekend with no sport that I actually had to care about. It was excellent. Rain Friday made things much better. There was no Munster. There was no hurling. What more do you want? It's great. We ignored Man United last night. Everything was fine. It's nice to be back. Hello, friends.
Ignoring Man United is always a good way to go.
It's just my
So-
mantra at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the same rule of thumb, we won't ask Adam about Spurs, so we'll ask him about the man, the myth, the legend that is Roy McIlroy. Adam, if you had a whoop, do you think your heartbeat would have went over 200 beats per minute?
Yeah, probably. It's really nice that it's happened twice. It's just like the weird things that are happening now. Like I'm expecting him to do it 3 times now. He just is a keen man for a green jacket. I don't really suit green jackets myself, so fair play to him. He could pull it off. If I was a millionaire, I would pull it off too.
That might be true. We are going to cover the 3 provinces that were in action, as well as Women's Six Nations from this weekend. We're going to start with the 5-star chasing Leinster, who overcame a tepid first half to sail past the Sharks 43-13 in Dublin. Ben's not a fan of that. David was, so it's fine. He's got the signing vote anyways. David, you were there. How much it sets you back, we won't get into that because EPCR and how much we hate them will come up in about 2 weeks' time. But Leinster stroll on to another European semi-final. Not much else you could ask from them.
No, I mean the result was yeah, hard to argue in the end. I don't know if stroll is the right word. It's becoming a weird, like it's 2 weeks in a row now that Leinster the first half has kind of been shambolic, might be a little bit harsh. But certainly nothing to write home about, and then they come out and seal it in the second half, which is um nice. It's a change from how Leinster used to do things, where they go out and blitz teams and then kind of just phone it in for the last 20. So yeah, the first 40 minutes were it's kind of a lesson in handling errors for the main part on Leinster's behalf. For anyone who wasn't there, just before the match kicked off, it absolutely bucketed down in the stadium. So it would have been pretty slick underfoot and then out of hand as well. So there's a little bit of latitude on that, but really there's players there who like Ryan Baird knocking the ball on the 22 under little to no pressure. There's no excuse for that. Some of the passes, even from the likes of Josh van der Fleer, they're better than that. And there's not really a whole lot of excuses that they can really look to for that kind of carry on. Now they didn't concede a try in that first half. That's as much to do with the fact that Sale really didn't bring much to the game. They have they're not world beater Sale. They are in a quarterfinal of the Champions Cup, so credit where it's due. But you almost forget that they had players like George Ford out there who, until relatively recently, was a fairly highly rated England international. So But they just didn't really, there wasn't really much to it. They took their points, six of them. Leinster had the one try, and it felt like a damn squib of a game at that stage. And then to their credit, Leinster came out in the second half, much as they did against Edinburgh. The passes that hadn't been sticking in the first half started sticking, and they just went on a run. There was some very nice play. There was some daft carry on from Ryan Baird where he decided he didn't want to score two tries, so he handed one of them to Hugo Keenan, possibly under the misapprehension that Keenan had more space to run under the sticks than he actually did in the end. Harry Byrne was solid off the tee again and pretty solid in running. I thought he ran some great. Um, his passing was good. The lines he ran were good. I thought in particular the back three, Hugo Keenan and Tommy O'Brien just control the air. And Keenan in particular now, missing for so long, and then he comes back, and both in the backfield, Sale seemed to be sending a lot of kicks his way, which was odd because they weren't getting any return out of them. And then on the chase, the I think it was the Ryan Baird's actual try was a very nice run in from Baird and a very nice link pass from Harry Byrne. But it's all because the ball sent up into the air. Keenan chased and won back cleanly himself, and was able to recycle quickly. So he was the core part of that maneuver. Sale did manage to get one try back in the end, but it was as much as anything just to bring it themselves into double digits. It's a weird one coming out of it because it's a Champions Cup quarter final, whatever else you say about the tournament. To come out of that with having scored 43 with a winning margin of 30 points, they can't really ask for much more than that, except for the fact that they do still feel like in large sections of the game they're playing kind of unconvincing rugby. So It'll be it'll be a test to see if how far that'll carry them. It was a very big surprise, I think, to be going into this knowing that a win would give them a home semi-final. I think most people had Glasgow kind of pinned as seeming like they were on a trend where they were definitely going to win against Toulon, and it'd be an away semi, presumably in Murrayfield. That upset now means that Leinster get a home run in, and I think they'll favour themselves against Toulon. Although you would imagine it should dial up a little bit more. But that could leave them in a Champions Cup final without having to do a whole lot of heavy lifting, but having made slightly heavier ground out of it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see now how they go over the next few weeks because I think it was before the Edinburgh game was the first full week that the entire squad was in camp. Um, it'll be now just a focus to see how high they can place in the URC and then build into that Toulon game. Because whatever about anything else, obviously winning the URC last year was a great one, but Europe will remain the focus, and so
At this
they'll be
point,
building
have
to that
Leinster
Toulon game.
had a difficult game in Europe? Like legitimately.
Their
Um,
pools were difficult, in fairness.
yeah,
Like
the
they
pools
got
weren't
past La Rochelle,
straightforward.
and it was a tough game, I know, but like Leinster could have lost that and been fine. But outside of La Rochelle, it's kind of bit of a stroll. Not in a bad way. I mean,
Uh,
like take what you get, but
Bayonne was a bit of a
Bayonne game was a
struggle,
struggle.
and
yeah,
Leicester, well, Bayonne less so than Leicester, but still to a certain degree.
yeah. And
And
they've
again,
they've
like
made
it's no one's
they've
fault.
they've
Take what you
made
get. I
more
mean,
like they've had stroll like last year was a stroll and against
yeah.
you would have thought slightly better teams, but Leinster just flew past them. So it definitely seems like they've made more work for themselves out of this fixture list than it necessarily would have warranted from the beginning. Whether or not they're learning lessons and how to handle themselves in the end game a little bit better, we'll see. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And it's also a really there's weird things going on in the squad where they have a lot of good players come back in, but there is still they have the deepest injury depth chart in a single position that I've ever seen. We've now lost another loose head prop. It's gone to the point where we've had to emergency draft Ed Byrne back in from Cardiff, so he'll be joining until the end of the season. I don't think he can play Europe. I'm not sure if he can be registered, but yeah, so that's kind of mad at that position. But yeah, look, it's they've gotten to where they've gotten playing pretty unconvincing rugby, but they've still gotten there. So if this is like if that's where they get playing unconvincingly, if they can manage to string one good performance together and that one good performance is a Champions Cup final, then I think they'll fancy themselves to take a pretty good cut off of it. And even though I think Bordeaux are probably a more frightening team to everybody else, I think there will be a slight bit of, I'm going to say relief, but maybe a slight bit of a release of tension to know that it won't be Toulouse waiting at the end, because Toulouse just know how to win finals.
That's true.
So yeah, it'll be a French run in from here, but you would assume Bath might have something to say about that. But Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. And again, unfortunately for Leinster, none of it'll matter. There's two matches they have to win this year, and they don't come until the end. And yeah, I remain unconvinced that they have it, but I was really convinced in seasons gone by, and we didn't. So we'll see how this one goes. Finishing strong. If their approach to the season can be the same as their approach to these games, then they might be all right.
Yeah, no, for sure. You actually kind of jumped the gun on what I was gonna ask Ben about because it
All
is
right.
now a genuine concern at prop because Andrew Porter, he may be back this week, we don't know yet. But you've got Alex Usanov injured, you've got Paddy McCarthy, you've got Jack Boyle, and of course Porter's a doubt. So that's why they brought back in Ed Byrne. And, look, fine player in his heyday at Leinster, but has played one game all season, hasn't played before that in a long time. He was out injured for a good while. So it's definitely an area of concern for Leinster because as they'll find when you go up against the likes of your Bordeaux or your Bats, every little bit matters, and the scrum could very well be that, Ben.
Yeah, and like we mentioned Ed Byrne very quickly. Just he also can't play in Europe. He can't be added to the European squad at this late stage if it gets to that point. Just something to keep an eye on in 3 weeks' time. If Porter is back, it's excellent. I will say Cahill was quite good on Saturday when he came in. Yes, he gave away two scrum penalties, I think, but once he solidified and got up to the pace of the game, I wouldn't have a lot of worry about him really. If Leinster have to play him on Saturday, Friday evening, happy days go on from there. If Porter comes back, they have their tier one scrummager. Yes, they do 60-minute Cheats game. I don't think Porter will mind that. I think Leinster will mind that, really. Um, Byrne will do a job in URC. There's 4 games left. Just put him in and see what happens. I mean, we say no scrum, no win, but Leinster scrum hasn't exactly been dominant all season, and they have been winning games. They'll need it against Toulon. They won't need it against Bordeaux, I would think. And let's see what they can get to. I don't think Leinster will be overly worried if they're missing Usmanov, if Kerr and Porter can do a job legitimately.
Yeah, no, well, that's it. And Jerry Kerr has certainly done a great job.
Is it Kerr or Carr also?
It's Kerr, surely.
It's Kerr. Is it pronounced like the town in Tip?
Surely, yeah.
Okay.
David,
I've
do you
always
know
heard it
what
pronounced
what does
care.
the
Kerr.
the intellectual heavyweights of the Leinster PA and the Aviva Stadium say?
They say Jerry Care.
Kerr.
Okay, fair
Perfect.
enough.
Yeah.
I,
I
I,
do
I've seen
my
it so many times that I'm just like, I want to pronounce this right, because if I say
can
Carr and I'm wrong, it looks stupid.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
I could do my impression of him if you wanted.
No,
Yes,
you're
please.
Jerry
fine.
Yes,
Caher.
please.
Sorry,
Yeah,
that was
that
I
it.
thought
that
you meant
sounded
to
like a
Jerry
different
Kerr
word.
for a second. And I was like, what impression do you have? Because I've never heard that man speak.
Hello, my
That's
name
true.
is Jerry Caher.
The people of Vodafone have heard us speak, but not for a long time now. Poor Vodafone. Uh, but David, to kind of move back onto it there, like you kind of mentioned, the path is clearing. There's an element of that now. Glasgow, who rattled Leinster's cage a couple of weeks ago, are gone. Toulouse are gone. Bordeaux and Bath are on the other side of the draw. La Rochelle are gone. Like, I know they're not the team that they were, don't get me wrong, we'll answer that in a minute. But there's a path clearing now for Leinster. I'm not going to ask you, are Leinster going to win Europe? But you can understand why there's a little bit more optimism brewing in the camp now that they've just gotten out of the way, and you can see the last 4 teams. It's a little bit clearer again, do you know?
Yeah. Um,
Don't sound too
I don't,
optimistic.
it's been a long road.
Hey,
I don't know. I would be very confident of Leinster making a Champions Cup final, and I would be less than 50% confident of them winning. Just because on the balance, the probability that's probably a misuse of that phrase.
is
Just
is
because
is that based on
that
playing
tends to be
Bordeaux
how it goes.
more than anything
No, it's
else?
based on the fact that over in the years since the last time Leinster won, they have tended to get to finals and they have tended to lose them. And it hasn't really mattered who it was because in that time they've lost to 3 different teams. So yeah, it's kind of a really awful um kind of crown to be carrying around, but that is the reality of it. Leinster get the good odds. I had someone explain to me that Leinster get the good odds to win because they tend to get to the final. If you get to the final, you're one of 2 teams that are going to win. So, from that kind of odds perspective, you're like, yeah, it's a reasonable bet that they'll probably win because they'll get to the final. But if you balance it up against how it's gone in the last 8, now almost 10 years, there's a good chance they will get to the final, but there isn't a good chance that they'll win it. So, um, that's just on numbers. On quality, Bordeaux are phenomenal. Like they're an unreal team. They've got some of the best backs in France, and their pack also stood up massively against Toulouse. And see, that's a monkey off their back as well. Like because it's not what's 2 seasons ago that Toulouse absolutely put them to the sword in the final. And much in all as they beat them in a semi last year, I'd say there was still an element of, yeah, but DuPont's back now, and they're, Toulouse. It's still Toulouse. They'll fancy them to do a bit of work in Europe. So,
The
um,
only French team to ever eliminate Toulouse from European competition. They've
yeah,
done it 2 years in a
and
row,
now they've
which is
done it
pretty
twice,
insane.
2 years in a row. So, yeah, no, if I had to bet on it, I'd say the odds are on Bordeaux to retain the championship. I think they definitely play like the best team in the competition. It's not to say Leinster couldn't get them on one day. They could, and Leinster do have really good players, but. No, I'd say for me it's Leinster's path to the final is clear, but Leinster's path to the trophy has a big, um, nice tasting wine, shaped block, in the way. So yeah, no, I think we'll get there, but I don't think we'll win.
That's fair. That's fair. Ben, I'm going to throw a quiz question to you there.
Oh,
Seeing as we were on Toulouse, do you understand or do you know who was the last team to beat Toulouse in a final of any sort, by any chance?
I presume it was us.
Yeah, it was actually.
Was it Lovely Monster in 2008?
Eight. It
Eight.
was.
Jesus, Ben. Yes, it was.
Yeah, Ben, we're all getting old here, you
I
know?
look. So it's not. It's only 20 years since the first time. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But no, it's incredible their record, but also I suppose they're kind of there is an element now where like they're the team that we all benchmark Leinster against. They're gone, and at least that's one emotional burden that has, you know,
I did love.
changed or
Did you
shifted.
see the was it? I suppose banner's right word at the top of the Delmas on Sunday. It was the journey or the route to the second star. And it was just in bold behind one of the try lines. And I'm like, that's excellent, and I kind of
And
loved
Andrew
that.
Porter would love that.
Yeah, it's nice. It's
Uh,
nice when they go for more stars.
And look,
exactly.
when they get to four, if they keep saying it, I'll have a problem with that as well.
Fair
They're
enough.
allowed to get to two.
We're going to move on to the
They're the
Challenge
right
Cup
and proper
next.
number for any team to accomplish.
Exactly,
That,
it's
that
more than enough. Once you've had two, you're done.
After that, it's just
two,
showing off.
two is great. Does Ulster count as a star if they win the Challenge Cup?
We
Well,
get a
we'll
wee
get on to them.
silver one. We get a wee silver one.
It's not as good.
Oh,
At least you'll see a team win in Bilbao again, hopefully.
yeah,
But to the
hopefully.
Challenge Cup because for I don't even know when was the last time we had an Irish team in the Challenge Cup semi-final. I believe it was Ulster, but they swept aside La Rochelle 41-24 on yet another stormy Belfast night. Adam, this was a dominant Ulster win, but I think I speak for the four of us here when I say what struck me was it was a really efficient Ulster win. Like
Yeah,
probably their most of the season. Yes, it was against like the Espoirs, don't get me wrong, but like Anna Haya West, who still taunts a lot of Leinster people's dreams, but really efficient.
yeah, really efficient. Really, just like that's what I was most impressed by last week against the Ospreys. We weren't as efficient, and we weren't making as much as we can with our opportunities. Whereas this game, we had the likes of the Bryn Ward try being the perfect epitome of how we take our chances. Zach Ward to Bryn Ward, and it being a bounce pass almost to him like in basketball, but it went backwards. It went so perfectly to his hands, and he just toppled over a couple of guys. It was really efficient. It was a statement win. Everyone sort of has it on Montpellier at the minute in the Challenge Cup. I know it was against a La Rochelle second team, but I think I said on Sunday you can only play what's in front of you, and to put 41 points against La Rochelle and to slightly make Ronan O'Gara a little bit angry, it's quite nice. I think it also shows a lot in how much we play as a different unit when the likes of Jack Murphy's on the pitch. Jack Murphy was instrumental to the attacking play, and he was so good at just resetting the line, going for it. The wee kicks here and there. It was really good. It sort of reminded me of when Billy Burns first started, but what Billy Burns didn't have was that zip in his pass, the real quickness and awareness. Billy Burns had a really good crossfield kick, but this is Jack Murphy who's got a good crossfield kick, can run at a few players as well, makes a couple of tackles. Like he's a great wee player. I feel like he is certainly in the upward trajectory in his career so far, which is good to see. The likes of our pack as well, like it was Hugh on the United on the Champions Cup rewind that looked at our team and looked at that pack, and that's a pack that shouldn't be losing against anyone. That's a pack that should face a team like Leinster and not back down. In my opinion, the likes of Angus Bell, Tom Stewart, O'Toole in that front pack, and Ian Henderson and Cormac Izuchukwu, it was really good to see the likes of Henderson putting in a full 80-minute performance and also being pretty dominant in those 80 minutes. Granted, as we said, it was an esportive team, like it was the La Rochelle B team, but it was like Jagu came off the bench, and I was just a bit like I was a bit uneasy at that. I was just like, oh, there's a couple of like French internationals coming off now, and I was like, oh, but as I said, like you never really see a French team perform well in the rain, especially in a rainy night in Belfast. We are, to put it in a football term, the Stoke City for French teams when it comes to European nights at Ravenhill. They can never come out of it. I've seen some of the great French teams come and struggle. But yeah, I think it was, as you said, it was really dominant performance. We were really on it. I think even our defensive errors and the tries for La Rochelle came through like mauls, and they were just bullying us over the ball. But that's okay because they had quite a big pack. They were a young pack, it was a big pack. But yeah, I just felt like everything went so well, and we still have another level to our game. I feel we don't have many injuries. Normally, we do have injuries at this time of the year. Granted, Timony's not available this week, but with that, we've got Brain Ward to sort of slot into that spot. So we've built some depth. The struggle from last year has built some really nice depth for us this year. It's a nice run, home run to the final. I'm hopeful. Hopeful's the word.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's starting to get to that point again where you do start to just get that, you get that tingle, you get that bit of hope. Like it's been 20 years since Ulster have won a trophy. We're going to go over that a couple of times over the next couple of weeks.
I was three.
Jesus,
I
shut
was
up.
four. I was four. Never mind.
Okay, we're
Oh
grand, we're
no.
grand. That's not too bad. The lads are still haunted by that.
Did Ulster
Um,
never win a Pro 14? Sorry.
no,
No, we came close.
their
We came
last
close
league
to a Pro
title.
12.
Actually, if you want another quiz question, their last league winning coach was
Mark McCall.
correct. Yeah,
I'm gonna write
imagine.
all these down for Christmas.
If we're not cancelled by then. Um, David, like Adam mentioned them, but like again, when you talk about star players, we like to touch on star players. The Ward brothers are just like they just keep going. And I know it's like, well, they're big, strong, fast men. I understand why a wet and miserable night would suit them, but like they really are the kind of the shining lights of this Ulster season, aren't they?
No, yeah, their box office, like it's really it's class. Like it's hilarious that in the year that like Zach Ward kind of really seemed to be announcing himself and there was pushes for him to get into the Ireland squad and that left wing position seemed like it might open up and he was doing a lot of things right. And then he was out, then his younger brother just came along and went, hey, I'm pretty good at rugby too. And has really shone and forced his way into that, or not into the team, but into being called up to Irish camp and being involved around that, and then to go back to Ulster and just continue to play as well, both of them. Um, it's an impressive physical profile that the pair of them have across two quite different positions, but yeah, they bring a real energy to the Ulster game, and even to watch the two of them, pair off an imperfect pass, but Bryn was, not to be held back in his run, and yeah, they're just it's really good to have that kind of player and have that kind of player come through in your own stocks and to kind of be able to go to look at Bryn Ward and go, he's really good, but he's also really young and in a position where he'll probably get better. For another few years before he really comes into the height of it. So, like, it's not inconceivable that in a few years Bryn Ward will be the kind of back row player that Ulster a few years ago might have gone out and tried to sign from South Africa or from New Zealand. So to have that kind of player be someone you're able to produce, that's a huge win for them. And it's not necessarily replicable. Pathways are only as good as the physical human beings who come through them. But in these two lads, they've done really, really well, and it seems like they're going to be really crucial players for Ulster for a long time to come.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I suppose, Adam, we do start looking forward because Ulster not only are chasing silver, as we said, but they now have a balancing act because their next five potential games are Leinster, Munster, Exeter, Glasgow, Stormers. And you have to assume Montpellier, but you never know. You never know. The Dragons' revival might keep going. But yeah, it's going to be tough to fight in two fronts. Like, because even at that, you'd have a URC quarterfinal a week later. So like it's going to be a bit of a high wire act. Do you think Ulster will focus on one or the other at this stage?
I think we are. I don't think we're going to focus primarily on one or the other. I think we're just going to take it game by game. When I look at the fixture list, I do think there is room to like we can't afford to lose to eat like Leinster, Stormers, and Glasgow. We need to beat at least two of them at home. I feel like we can afford to lose against somebody like Munster. I feel like that's one that we're going to probably send a rotated team to. Whether or not we go through to the final or not, really dictates our season because I can almost see if we don't get to a final, us going hell for leather on the URC and just trying to do that. I think the luxury of the season has been, and I think it's been so encapsulated by at the start of the season, we were talking about second row stocks and I was really worried about how the depth in the second row stocks. But now we have the likes of Charlie Irvine, Joe Hopes becoming, and like Harry Sheridan and stuff coming through that pipeline. We have really talented players coming through. Bryn Ward as well, to name another one. We've got really, really talented players coming through that will hold their own and will try and stake out a claim for this Ulster jersey. We've built something and it's working really well. That tingle of winning a trophy and just everything coming out at once is there. I haven't had it for such a long time, but it's one of those where I can't get excited just yet. This time last season we were in fifth and we dropped down to ninth within a couple of games.
Yeah.
We're third at the minute. I'm not saying that we're gonna drop. I feel like we're gonna make top eight. I feel like top eight, get to top eight, focus on Challenge Cup, and that's it. I think that's what we need to do. If we don't go through and win the Challenge Cup, it wouldn't ruin our season. It's been a great season in general. We've done so much. We've done so much compared to last season. But yeah, I just feel like it fills me with such unbridled joy that only Rory McIlroy can win a green jacket. It would be like my top sporting moment ever if we were to do that. But I can't get giddy just yet. I can a little bit, but we've got every game as a final type energy now.
That
Which
that
what it
that
is.
can make or break you. That's my fear for Ulster is that you could turn around. Like Ulster could very easily do a South Africa and win the next three games by 1 point each, or they could very easily lose the next three games by 1 point each, playing the exact same performance. Like that's the fine margins in the next couple of weeks. And I know we'll get on to them, at the end of the show. Munster's form hasn't been great, for example, but you still have to go to Thomond Park where their backs are against the wall. You still have to take on Glasgow and the Stormers where they're under pressure for top four, and everyone from here on in is under pressure. But Ulster, it'll be so easy to just shift your focus a tiny bit. If something isn't going well in Thomond, or it's not going well, against, is it Glasgow in round 18
Yeah.
before a potential final, it's very easy to shift your focus. Be like, right, I'll protect my body for next week, because that's a very natural kind of reaction. But we are going to touch on Women's Six Nations, but that'll be just a moment. Before we move on, just remind you to subscribe to get all the latest Global Gain Line content on this channel. And as always, if you could leave a comment, tell a friend, whatever it does, makes all the difference. And as always, we are looking for hosts for Provincial Podcast set to drop next season. So leave a comment down below if you would be interested. But to the Six Nations next is Ireland closed the gap despite being underwhelming against England, I think it's fair to say. 33-12 loss in Twickenham in front of over 77,000 fans, which is pretty remarkable. Um, Ben, I'll start with yourself. It was a weird one because how often do you say a team got better while also not being great? But that is the general vibe of this Irish performance.
Yeah, looking the first 40 minutes were kind of everything we feared could happen when you play this England team in Twickenham. They, to be fair to England, they came at the game kind of like a runaway freight train. They threw everything at us. They got three really, really nice tries once they got their game going. Fair to Ireland, we never looked shell-shocked. We never looked out of the game. We kept trying to play our game. Didn't work in the first half, admittedly, whatsoever. But once we got going, I mean, we were never winning the game fine. There was a tiny bit of middle hope we could come out with a try bonus point at one point. Like we got two tries, start middle to the second half. We were playing really, really well. We'll touch on it. Hard done by a by decision or two to kind of properly ended the game. But without being too critical of this performance, there's an awful lot to work on. There's an awful lot to improve on. Galway this weekend, and then a France game we can properly target, seeing how the World Cup went as well. There's three wins here for this Irish team still. And there's nothing to worry about here. Um, every performance, McGann came in. I touched on her brief in World Cup as well, but she was excellent when she came in. Properly got humming, carried remarkably well. All of our pack handled England scrum very well. Won, I'm going to say, three scrum penalties over the course of the game.
I think it was about three. Yeah, Eilish Cal won their first scrum of the game is
Yeah,
incredible. But yeah, I think it was about two or three.
like got turnovers when they were necessary. There's so much here that we can work on, we can improve on. It's really hard to be downtrodden after that game. Really, really good for 55 minutes. Really, really good. England overran us for half an hour, but look, they're going to do that to every single team in this tournament.
That's the thing. And I suppose I watched the game, right, and I was quite frustrated watching it, naturally, because Ireland weren't at their best. Like they had better performances against like France and maybe not New Zealand last year, but France last year twice, and some of their Six Nations games. This was poor, but at the same time it was better, and I just kind of struggled with. But as you said, there was just that frustration in the first half that Ireland were bad in the first half, right? And I will say that I think they were about 5 out of 10, couple of good clearing kicks, couple of good turnovers. But then it was some of the decisions, like a knock on not
Yeah.
being called. I thought that before the first English try, I thought the turnover on Aaron King was very favorable. Like Aaron King is not held in that tackle. The player just goes for the ball.
There
So
was a turn
therefore it is
midway
a
through the
tackler.
first where it was she called it for playing the nine, but it was
Mm,
a very clear, came straight through the gate, lovely turn, ball is there to play. Nine happens to stand in the tunnel, gets hit by her own player, pulls Ireland for playing the nine. It made no multiple decisions made no sense to me, but that one stood out because it was for me crucial part in the game. We weren't that far behind as of yet. They scored off the penalty.
yeah. And that was the theme of the first half, wasn't it? Like it was like it's one thing to not play well. It's another thing to have your mistakes compounded by these strange decisions. It was a literal knock on brought back because well Ireland weren't back 10 anyways. What?
The
Like
knock
what?
on, was it knock on, hit the ground, then kicked? At which
It's
point
something like
it
that.
stops being a knock on at that point. It was madness.
It was
Madness.
crazy. But also I think why it was crazy is because we just had a World Cup where the only fault you could have was officiating. And then the first big Six Nations game afterwards, you have the same problem. And if this keeps happening, it will undermine not just the growth of the likes of the Irish team, but the growth of the English team and the growth of the competition at large. Because World Rugby, as we have seen for 25, 30 years, refuse to step in until they're absolutely hounded to do so. Like we talk about FIFA, we talk about the GA, we talk about, the FAI. World Rugby are as bad as anyone. Like they are genuinely incompetent at times, and I think this is one of those moments. And like even take like the Dorian Aldegheri red card the other day. It's a 20-minute red card. If that's not a stonewall red card, what is? Like he goes to do him, he does him. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, I'm getting annoyed. David, cheer me up here. Because actually, originally I highlighted two players. I did the notes this morning, and then I watched the game back for an analysis piece, which I might get Lee to link down below. And I had Queen's King and Hogan, a little bit of a pun there. But Brittany Hogan was absolutely insanely good in this game. And considering Aoife Wafer wasn't at her best, we needed it. And she kept popping up big carries, big tackles. An underrated star of this Irish team.
Yeah, no, like just phenomenal. Like yeah, and you want that like on a day where another player who you typically rely on isn't exactly where you want them to be, then you want to know that there's going to be someone like that to stand up and be counted. And it almost counts for more when it's on a day that not everything else goes in your favor. You know, it's easy to be good on the good days, as it were, and for you know, Hogan to be to have that kind of performance on a day when not everything was going our way, like that's what you want, and you can only hope that like if she continues that like as the tournament progresses, then that's going to really carry us. I thought I was only able to catch the first half of the game live, caught the rest of it later. Like that first half, as much as it didn't go our way, I did think there was I still felt there was a lot to like. I think you have to come from the perspective that England are like really good. Like how long has it been since they lost the game? Not not to us, but just in
It's like
general. How long has it been since they
The
lost the
the, the
game?
World Cup final in 2022.
it's like
That's
30,
that's
33
there's no
wins in a
precedent
row.
for that. Like the 2015 All Blacks, I love that kind of record. Like it's there's no accounting for that kind of class. And they didn't. I know England didn't have a perfect game, but at least part of that has to go to the team they were playing against. Like in that first half, as much as they did outscore us, they didn't look. If they didn't, it didn't look like there was a massive gulf in talent. It looked like one team was having a good day and one team was making a few mistakes. But other than that, they were relatively well balanced. I thought Ireland defended, even despite those concessions. I thought there were some good defensive moments. I thought there was good use of the touchline. As an extra defender, I thought there were moments
Yeah.
where you felt like in like last year, certainly things that would have been definite tries, and they weren't. It's like so. I did think there were a lot of positives, and then just that final result after what it was in the first half, like that's a really good response in the second half. That shows they still dug deep. They took their scores. They didn't continue to hemorrhage. England used to almost make a point of just when they got scoring, they didn't stop. That it was like a race to see how high can we push it this time, and Ireland didn't let that happen. It'll be interesting to see now how England go for the rest of the tournament. Was this just a really good day or a day where Ireland were able to frustrate them and they laid down a marker for the rest of it, or are the other countries, excuse me, catching up? But no, I thought like, look, it's a game we went into knowing we probably weren't going to win. It's maybe frustrating that England weren't having their best game and we could have maybe taken a few more cuts off them. But overall, I thought, it was imperfect, but if that's imperfect, that's not bad. There's a lot more to be played here. And we were kind of saying last week that we would hope that the team would get better as the competition went on and they could finish very strong. Advanced said there's 3 games to win. There's definitely 3 wins there for us. But I think we should be aiming for 4, like because I think that is
100%.
within us to get this season, and particularly with the 3 at home. So no, I thought as starts go, considering the opposition, I thought there was a lot of positives to be taken out of it. And look, things don't go your way. I kind of just as unhelpful as it is, I kind of view refs as forces of nature. It happens sometimes. The avalanche goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. So, um, I thought
That's an
overall,
excellent quote, and I love it
I
so
thought
much.
overall it was a decent performance, and I think there's a lot to be positive coming out of it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we go over the next few weeks. And I think that France game should be one that we really target because I think it's there for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. Like Ireland will look at it and be like, well, excuse me, that there is still room. Like if we perform to our level and we use this as a benchmark that we have improved, then absolutely we should be able to beat France. And I think the point you made about the edge defense is really important because France in that World Cup game, they got to the edges too much. That was their pressure release valve. They were able to get around Ireland with their pace, with their electricity. England, with Ellie Kildone, the best fullback in the game, they weren't able to break down Ireland as much. And the only chance that Eddie Kildone properly had to attack was a poor kick chase by Ireland. Granted, they're on their own try line. It can often get sluggish, like that can happen. It's the end of the game. They're already down like 28-5 at that stage. So, these things happen. But Adam, just to kind of to finish it with you, I know we've got the Dexcom at Galway this week, and I'll try and get some stuff on that because I'll be there. David will be there as well. Um, the debutants for Ireland, Katie Whelan and Irish Cal. Mentioned Irish Cal came on, had a scrum penalty win. Katie Whelan came on, added real tempo, like real pristine accuracy as well. But also, Nancy McGillivray came off the bench was really good. Nebo Dow came off the bench was really good. Ruth Campbell, her first intervention in this game was a maul turnover. So yes, the debutants very good, but the bench in general, there was a proper like level raised when they came off the bench, wasn't there?
Yeah, 100%. I think judging from the first half to the second half, I think it was a 12-all draw. So if you were to play if you were to be like that type of statistician, we drew that second half, and as you said, it was shown through the bench coming on and adding that extra zip. I was really impressed by it was the King try where it was up through the 12. Um yeah,
Hmm.
it was like something like that you would see. It was like such a well-timed play, and it was also such a well-timed run as well. Um, to score two tries in that, like in front of when you think about like it was something that I didn't really acknowledge. It's something that I've repeated on a podcast, but 77,000 people, when you think about it, if it's your first time playing in front of 77,000 people, and this goes for any sport, but something that I didn't realize is that your communication has to be that little bit louder. And as the game went on, you could see us like slowly getting used to it, slowly getting used to it. I think your defense was pretty good in the first half, given that they did score a couple of tries, but I felt like they were really tight in that sense. But then in the second half, you saw the confidence slowly come in, and I feel like that's a massive positive with our bench. You could say that, as we said, I think it's like 33 wins in a row that England have had. We really looked like, they really looked like, not that they were struggling, but we really put in an actual force against them and we gave them a game when it came to that second half as well. Um, I really enjoyed watching how we reacted to, the aspect of being it was like 20, it was 21-0 at halftime, wasn't it? Um,
Yeah, yeah, it
but
was.
it didn't exactly feel like I felt like our scrums went so well in the game as well, to the point where it just kept on pushing and pushing, and it was a real big target. It was a real big target from Ireland. But as you saw it really progress on with the likes of the set pieces in the second half, and that's when the bench came on. So I was very impressed by the bench. Yeah.
No, that's all absolutely fair. And I look forward to this weekend. We're going to it in a couple of moments, but we're going to wrap things up with Montpellier. In Montpellier, I don't know the name of the stadium to be honest, as Connacht's European dream came crashing down thanks to a 45-22 defeat. And kind of like Ireland, these were the two games back to back on Saturday. It was the slow start. Two yellow cards very quickly. Ben, I might get your thoughts on those in just a minute. Like two quick yellow cards leads to 7 points. They grow back into it. They have that brilliant try in the corner. And then another yellow card for Bolton. And it's discipline. And I understand when you're being pulled at sixes, sevens, it's a big game. You make mistakes, right? It happens. But it was just so frustrating for Connacht that they would kind of go out a little bit limp because of it. And, when you're reflecting the campaign, you might say, well, it was pretty decent. And I would agree, it was pretty decent. But, that loss to the Ospreys will sting them, I think. I think the first loss to Montpellier will sting them. This one, not as much. Like, it was still a comprehensive 23-point win for Montpellier at home in a knockout game. Connacht did kind of hand it to them in that first half. Like, they scored something like 21 points off of the three yellow cards. Like that's just far too easy. And Ben, like when you look at those, like those first two calls were dubious enough to some people. I thought Christopher Ridley was right. He'd just probably be the only referee that would do it. But the likes of the Bolton one, when you're already have the backs against the wall, don't give them an excuse to go back to the bin. Don't give them the option, and that'll be what'll really frustrate Connacht.
Yeah, and like I'm going to be controversial is probably the wrong word, but I thought Ridley had an excellent game.
I did as
I
well.
thought
I,
both
I,
those.
I couldn't understand the Christoph Ridley has been awful takes by like neutral journalists. I think if that happened in, say, a Munster Ulster game, people would say he was fine. Do you
Yeah,
know that
like
kind of way?
the only caveat you can put on it is maybe he could have given a warning off that first small, maybe,
Hmm.
but it was it was going to score. It was pulled down to stop it scoring.
And the second one was a definite card.
Second one's
Second one definitely, yeah.
like for me, the two of them, you look at them, you're like, these are both clear try scoring opportunities. He has no choice in what he's doing. A bit unlucky it was two hookers, but again, he went maul and said, "Hey, AV, nothing I can do about it." Bolton's one is brainless. It's a coach killer. It's a game killer. It probably cost him a place. Like the Connacht were getting into the game, Connacht playing really well. With 15 men, Connacht looked really, really good. And yeah, three yellows in any game, especially Team Montpellier's level, are going to kill you. Um,
Yeah.
it was beautiful to see that level of forward dominance, though. Like any pack able to do that in a mall is just stunning. Sorry, David, you were going to say something.
No,
Yeah, no,
jump in.
I think because I think I said it at the time, like it's I don't know the two yellow cards at the start, but bothered me not because they weren't fair. They were completely justified. It's just it felt like from the whole sequence of play, Montpellier deserved a try and Connacht deserved a yellow card, and the second one just felt a little bit. And I understand really his position. He wanted to lay down a marker first at the start, and not unfortunately, because it was a conscious decision, I suppose, at that stage. Then Connacht didn't take the lesson, and they instantly infringed in the exact same way again. And he was kind of like, at that stage, there was nothing he could do. He's like, well, that was definitely a yellow card, and it's
Once he's
definitely
given
a
the
pen
first
try.
one, he even has to
He's like,
say, "You've done
it's
it
like,
again."
it's like if I back down now, they know I'm a coward. So he was like, I can't back down. They've done this to themselves. The only thing I would say to balance it is, as unfair as I felt it was, I don't really feel like it affected the game that much. Unless Connacht were going to go on a run there and score a bunch of points, they managed that 10 minutes relatively well. They didn't concede until the very last minute, so it was just 7 points, which out of being down to 13 men is not really that bad. A price to pay.
I
In
think Bolton's one was almost more
Yeah, it
punishing
was, and
because
if it
that
came
nearly
out of the
took the
game,
game
it's
away from
just
him.
yeah. So it just I don't know. Like I think it's frustrating because it seemed like the Connacht out of the round of 16 were a Connacht team that were putting like real confidence together, and they had that run of games, so you really felt like oh maybe they could do it, and like the dream was alive that Connacht and Ulster
The
could
console's
have.
final.
That would have been something. Then you were like, hey, pressure's off Leinster. Someone Irish is going to win a European Cup. But no, it was frustrating, and unfortunately, Connacht came apart in a way that Connacht have often come apart. But as Ben said, Montpellier, they're an imperfect team full of some
Mm.
questionable individuals, but they have a very dominant forward pack, and they were able to make that show, and both in terms of the scores that they were able to get out of it and the cost in terms of penalties and cards they were able to extract from Connacht in it. So they were well worth that victory.
Like we've said
But
a
I
few
think
times on
Connacht will
this
be
that
frustrated.
like Connacht were due to do a Connacht at some point in this run that had all gone so well. I didn't see it being a first half of trio of cards where they actively potentially knocked themselves out of a European semi-final. But it was just there's a point it's almost stop hitting yourself. It's just
Yeah.
listen, calm, you're well in this game. Ah, well, now you're not.
It's whatever the negative version of what form is temporary, class is permanent. It's like whatever Connacht is permanent, unfortunately.
And now they have to go to South Africa.
I know they've got to South
Yeah, but
Africa.
that's the thing. That was going to be my next talking point. Like they kind of have to regroup now for top eight because it's still a live possibility. But you have Stormers, Lions, Munster at home and away to Edinburgh. And my thoughts on Edinburgh have been discussed ad nauseum on this podcast and others. But it's a tough run in. Like it's a very tough run in.
Frauds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
frauds is exactly the word I would use. Anyone who looks at Sean Everett's record over the last couple of years and rehires him, Jesus, I wonder how that person became a high performance director. Uh, no comment. But no, like it's tough running for Connacht. Like there's no doubt about it. And I think what we are starting to see is young players stepping up. I thought in the likes of John Devine getting more minutes and Matthew Victory getting more minutes, Billy Bowen, players like that is good and it is a positive. But it's not going to be. I know it's a bit cliched. It's not going to be those lads that are going to decide whether Connacht may top eight or not. It's going to be can we keep Bundy on the field for the next. He's not traveling to South Africa, so it's going to be the two games after. Can he stay on the field? Can he be impactful? Can he be all those things?
Sorry, is
Jack
is he not
Carthy.
traveling?
He's not traveling. Neither is Finlay Bealham, Josh Ioane, or Dennis Buckley. So
What?
that is. I assume there's knocks or injuries or something linked to
Ioanni's
him.
injured.
Ioane
Aki,
definitely is.
I don't know what Aki's story is.
Yeah,
And Philly Bealham's wife either just had or is about to have their
Yeah,
second
Finley
child.
wouldn't
So,
be traveling. He
which
gets
is
time off, which is
but
great
I'm
that
pretty
one
sure
province does it.
Josh Ioanni has a knock of some sort.
yeah.
Reasonably
Well,
sure he does.
he missed the last game due to head. protocol, return to play
Yeah.
protocol. So
So
that they're absolutely fair, like in their own right. But it is going to be a huge task now for the other leaders in that Connacht team. Dave Heffernan, who's only just back, to travel. You know, Jack Ainger is still a relative older head. Joe Joyce, like these are going to be the guys that you're going to look to now, without Beelan, without Aki, and to see if they can do it, and if they can get 5 points in this South African tour, magnificent. I think that would be great work for them. But we shall see. But really quickly before we go, because we're making really good time this week. So we're going to fly into predictions. We have an Interpro next week, Friday, 7:45, Premier Sports, Ulster against Leinster. Seeing as they're the home side, Adam, what is your thoughts ahead of this Interpro derby?
to quote, oh, what's his name? Is it Kevin Keegan? I'd love it. I'd love it
I
if
love
we
how
do
you just fumbled it straight away, like
yeah, I know.
straight
It's
away.
been it's been one of those days. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting game. As I said, we cannot afford to lose to all three of Stormers, Glasgow, or Leinster. We need an Interpro win. They're very difficult. I feel like I think from our form coming off last week, I feel like we're gonna be in a very good tune to win on Friday. Whether or not Leinster are gonna send a heavily rotated team or not. I know they're gonna have Andrew Porter back potentially. We're not gonna have Nick Timoney. I wouldn't say we're gonna have a fairly rotated team. I think we're gonna have much the same as last week. And then as I said, send the rotated team for Munster. Um I just would feel like I'd feel like for Ulster's sake, I think we'd have to win it. Whether it's not gonna be by a bonus point. I feel like it's gonna be about 3 points, and I think it's just gonna be quite a rough and ready game because I feel like a lot of players on both sides would have points to prove. Come the summer tour as well, because that's what the Interpros are as well. It's like we tryouts. I'm gonna push over Sam Prendergast because I'm Jack Murphy and I'm better.
Anyways, I'm going to give the right to reply to David, who is our Leinster expert on all these things. David, do you think Ulster need to be put back in their box based solely on the last 10 seconds of what Adam said?
I just feel like it's the height of disrespect to think that it's Sam Prendergast you're going to be knocking over when it's probably going to be Harry Byrne.
That's true.
Um,
He's been given the
and
keys, I believe was the words used this week.
it's a sad day. Yeah, I mean, there's a few doors Harry couldn't open, growing up from where he's from. But yeah, no, it's a sad day now, having all that European might behind us that the East Coast Alliance has to come crashing down like this, but somebody's got to do it. So yeah, it'll be a tough game out. I think you'd probably fancy Ulster a little bit, just because it's in Ravenhill. We'll probably have to rest a few guys. It's really a toss up between who needs it more, because I don't think there's any doubt in that. Like we both kind of need it, so it'll be a fairly feisty game. I would be at it if not for the fact that I don't want to drive up and down the M1 on the risk that some well-meaning individual decides to shut it down. So yeah, no, I think I will be cheering for us, but I'd say Ulster might edge it. If the weather keeps going the way it's going, like it's been going in Belfast, like the last few weeks have been an absolute slog. So if it goes like that again, yeah, it could be a really tough night up there for us, and I could see Ulster edging it by a score.
Yeah, it certainly most people are leaning that way, that it will go the way of um they'll go the way of Ulster, but we shall see. The next game then, Saturday. A triple header on Saturday again. I'm not these triple headers, lads. They take it out of you. You don't realize it's tough life when you watch all these games, and then you go watch the golf afterwards. But Stormers against Connacht, 12:45 TG Car and Premier Sports. As we were just kind of saying there, it's a big ask for Connacht. But the one thing I will say is the Stormers are beatable. They are a very, very good team, but they are very, very beatable. I think a team with the record they have probably beats Toulon in that opportunity. I think you start to see why their people have their doubts because they just have that little air of like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like what the hell are you at? Like, do you know what I mean? That's the vibe you get off the Stormers. Like even like when they won in Limerick, for example, like they were terrible for 40 minutes. They played well for 40 minutes, but they were terrible for 40 minutes. And Connacht could well catch them on the hop. We don't know. There's always that opportunity. And we've seen it with South African teams before. They get knocked out of Europe and they almost like take a few weeks to get back up to speed. They almost forget that the URC is their bread and butter. We've seen that before with the likes of the Bulls and the Stormers before, so we shall see on that one. David, I might throw back to you, seeing as you're heading to this as well. Ireland against Italy. Women's Six Nations 5:45 on Virgin Media. Sorry, 5:40 on Virgin Media One. A strange kickoff time. Um, big game for Ireland, but you would have to assume that they will be going into this as heavy favourites.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've earned that off the last week. As imperfect as it was still a really promising performance. Good performances by, obviously one or two players will want to up it from last week, but certainly no, I thought there was more than enough promise from that game to think that we should have this one. And it's in Galway and it's in the Dexcom. Anyone who hasn't been there, it's a class stadium. It looks really well. It's selling really well. I think the Clan stand is entirely sold out now. So if we could get a few more across the line, it should be a really good day in Galway. So fingers crossed. And if the weather could stick it up too, because we've got some real good attacking weapons, and it'd be great to see them play some running rugby.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it is, tickets are selling very, very fast. So if you are thinking about going, do go. Forget the hurling, forget all that kind of stuff. Just go to this instead. No one needs to see Kilkenny win again. My poor heart. Benetton against Munster, Ben. 7:45, TG Car and Premier Sports. I take it you're not one of the many Munster fans that are heading to Italy, are you?
No, 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 no. There's 70 odd going over. I am not one of them on this occasion, unfortunately. But I've gotten away. But it's gonna be a cracking atmosphere. It's European numbers going over. People that have gone are full of praise for Parma and Treviso. I think they'd like a win. Some of them are zero from two, hoping not to be 0 from 3. From trips to Italy. Like it's not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination. Benetton have a very tough last 4 games. They've Munster, Leinster, and then a trip down to Sharks and Bulls. So there's a slight chance that they may well be targeting, let's beat Munster at home, get a grip on top 8, and then see what happens in South Africa. Because like Leinster the week after, you'd imagine Leinster will rotate a little, but unfortunately at the minute, we are the easy one to target. The only thing is Munster are going to go full strength. We can go full strength 23 from here to the end of the season, and ideally that'll be enough to get us over the line. But I wish I could say I'm confident.
Yeah, well, we shall see. Got the likes of Ollie Yeager back training at the very
Hopefully
least.
back. But again, there's no word it's actually going to play. Same way Nash is back from his HIA.
Hmm.
Should be fit for selection as well. And then Jack and Craig at 9 and 10. Look, hopefully. Um,
Yeah.
if we win it, that's a really nice thing. We also have an awful run in from here. 2 interpros in your last 4 games isn't exactly what you want to be seeing. So you kind of have to get out of Treviso with something, hopefully.
Yeah, well, you can't leave with 0 points at this stage of the season, whether that's Leinster, Ulster, Munster, or Connacht. Zero is a death wish. But gentlemen, we'll leave it at that for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back next week with another jam-packed weekend of rugby to look back on, and at least I won't have to ask you about the golf, which I'd love to have done a bonus podcast on the golf, but it would just be Adam listing the players he wants the 4.5 million to go towards, forgetting the fact that we have NIQ heroes in this country. As always, if you like what you see here, please make sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Turn on the little bell icons to get notified when the latest show drops. And as always, if you have any questions, if you want to volunteer to do a provincial podcast next season, comment sections, Twitter to message us. But from me, Kaelon, from David, from Adam, and from Ben, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll chat to you again very, very soon.